Right, welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Now, the electoral body, INEC, has rejected the petition for the recall of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, saying it has not met the requirement of a section of the Constitution. The Commission said that a petition for the recall of a senator must comply with the provision of the Constitution, which requires the signatures of more than half of the registered voters in the constituency. According to the Commission, the total number of registered voters in the Kogi Central Senatorial District is 474,554. That's more than one half of the figure, which is 237,278 voters. That would constitute half. INEC said across the 902 polling units, it ascertained 208,132 signatures from the submission made by the petitioners, and that translates to 43.86% of the registered 29,146 signatories. Meanwhile, constituents of Kogi Central thanked INEC for validating the 208,132 signatures in the recall petition against suspended Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Although the petition fell short of the required 50% threshold, the validation confirmed strong disapproval of the senator, according to this group. The group expressed confidence in INEC's transparency and vowed to continue pursuing her recall for misconduct and divisiveness. They criticized Akpoti-Uduaghan for her recent comments, calling for a dignified and collaborative representation in the district. Well, joining us now on the morning show to put all these issues together and for some clarification of INEC's decision is Victoria Etta Messi, INEC Director of Voter Education and Publicity. Good morning, ma'am, and welcome to the program.
Well, madam, thank you for joining us. Well, the story is already well known in the public domain that INEC has declared that the petition by the constituents in Kogi Central didn't meet the requirement under Section 69. But the question is, what is next? Some of those constituents from Kogi Central have issued a statement saying that, they are going to collaborate with INEC and start the process of recall afresh. Now, do they have the wiggle room to do that? Or the process with what INEC said yesterday has ended and that no further action can be taken on the matter for our education?
Thank you once more for having me. So the Constitution is silent on that. The law is silent on the recall process being started afresh. And we're not sure, even if that were to happen, we're not sure of the window that is required before a resubmission can be done. What the Commission did yesterday was to state that based on what was submitted earlier, the threshold was not met. They required 50% plus 1. But what was got during the physical inspection of the signatures was 43.8%. So as it is, what we have on ground has been done with. It is a done deal. And so that process has come to an end in line with the provision of the Constitution. So if they were to start afresh now, well, I don't know. I don't know what the experts would advise us on that. But the law is silent on them representing, and how soon they should do that, we do not know. But when they come up with another petition, then I think we'll cross the bridge when we get there. But then the issue is, if they could only get 208,000 signatures, where are they now going to get the shortfall from? So that is a question to ponder.
Thank you so much. And while many are celebrating this outcome as a victory where INEC has done justice, there's a little bit of criticism. And that criticism lies around the fact that this petition was instituted by a group called the Kogi Central Political Frontier, which is not known to be registered on any platform. So some are asking, how is it that this petition even got this far when the petitioners themselves are not in a formally constituted body?
So the Constitution did not say that they must be a registered entity. It just said constituents who have lost confidence in their representative can seek their recall. So these are a group of people who came together. They just chose to give themselves a name. So I don't think it was necessary for us to go to the CAC to confirm if there is such a registered body. All we need is for the constituents to come together, put their signatures together, and naturally there would be need for us to have like leaders within the local government who would be guiding this process. So they just chose to give themselves that name. And I don't think it was necessary for the commission to bellyache over that.
Okay, good to see you, ma'am. First question will be, is there any verification process of some sort that INEC goes through? Because most of the people that filed this recall were politically exposed and biased. In fact, they had jobs with the government of Kogi State. Is there any way they were going to look into that? And another question will be a scenario planning question. How will INEC have verified those signatures in the first place, owing to the fact that there'd been a lot of videos circulating of how these registers were written, allegedly, and people were imputing names and signing signatures of people? How will that have been verified?
So INEC cannot rely on what it sees on social media. The law clearly states the processes that need to be followed for a recall to be valid. And so the first step that we took was to ascertain that they even met the threshold, that the signatures, whether forged or not, were up to the required number of 237,000 plus. And that was the stage where we were when we realized that they didn't even have the 237,000 signatures. If they had met the threshold, that's when the real verification would have been conducted. And so a notification would have been sent out to the member being recalled, to the presiding officer of the applicable house as well, and again to the public. And then the commission would proceed to begin to make preparations to deploy men and materials to the field for verification. And that is where the real work is, because all those who signed the petition were expected to turn out to be verified and authenticated using the beavers. And that is where the work, the main work or task is. And that is why it has been difficult for us to successfully take a recall process to the end, because all those people who signed, so even if we saw videos on social media, during the verification process, all of those people would have to turn out with their PVCs to be verified and authenticated.
Okay, the first question.
And it is only at that point that we would be able to proceed to the next level.
Okay, what if, the first question I ask is, what if the people that submitted the petition obviously were slanted because they were working for the incumbent state government and everything, you know, and people say it's a political witch hunt? What of that area in the first place? Because that was the case with the petition. Most of the people that filed this petition, a lot of people have condemned them because there were people working for the incumbent in the states.
Again, the commission relies on what the law states. Even if we saw things on social media, we cannot keep aside the provisions of the law and say we want to be guided by what is being peddled on the social media. Whether they were supporters or sympathizers of a rival political party or political group, the issue is they were constituents, and so they had the right to seek a recall of their member. And so if we had gone to the field for verification, that's when we would be able to ascertain whether we can continue or not. If they're able to mobilize the people, it's within their right. Whether it has a political coloration or connotation, well, we cannot really rely on that, as is to follow the steps clearly outlined by the law, by the Constitution and the Electoral Act.
Okay, madam.
So yes, even if it may seem as if it was a political witch hunt, but INEC could not truncate or stop the process because of that. It had to follow through to the end.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we were able to ascertain that they didn't even have the threshold for us to deploy to the field.
Okay, madam. INEC is not the most popular of institutions in Nigeria. every petitioner will say, oh, INEC didn't do a good job. BVAS did not work. Why is INEC portal always failing? INEC has been compromised. But in this particular instance, INEC is being praised by quite a substantial number of people to say, oh, INEC is following the law. INEC has rejected the recall. How does that make you, your team, your, establishment feel in-house? And what does it say about voter, psychology, voter attitude in Nigeria? Because now all of a sudden it's like, oh, INEC has done something that a lot of people are pleased with. Because tomorrow they may come after INEC again. No. Just have one by-election. You will hear stories about technology and beavers. But how do you react to the support you seem to have received for what looks like a populist outcome?
Yeah, INEC is used to receiving the heat all the time. So it goes with the duty, or it goes with our job. And so we just stick to trying to be the best and to serve the people as best as we can. So like you said, last week they celebrated INEC when the press release was brought out that the covering letter did not meet acceptable standard. And the very next day, everybody was flogging INEC, but we're merely doing our job because we said they did not have the required addresses and contacts. And because of that, we couldn't proceed. And within 24 hours, they came up with that. And so we had no excuse not to reinitiate or continue with the process. And the moment we did that, they came following and pursuing us and saying, oh, INEC is at it again. Now we have again followed the law, done what is expected of us, and we're like the sought-after bride. But we're not carried away by that because we know that in the very next minute, they could turn their back on us again. So we'll just stick and try to do the best that we can all the time.
Absolutely. Of course, all Nigerians are asking for is just accountability, transparency, and credibility. And so we hope this is the first of a new chapter. But let's go back to some of the issues that transpired. Of course, there's a group, the group of petitioners who are saying that the fact that the 208,000 plus signatures have even been recognized is a big source of celebration for them, and it is a referendum of sorts for them that shows that there is a lack of popularity for the senator. You've already clarified that these signatures have not even been vetted, so we don't know how authentic the 200,000 are because you had not gotten to the stage, you were not able to get to the stage where you start combing through. My question is, when we vote, our vote is our secret. But when we want to recall, we have to now come and be identified and verified. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. It almost seems like the system is rigged against recalling senators because who truly is going to put themselves at risk to be identified as being part of a group who want to institute a recall unless they are backed by a bigger force? What's your take on that contradiction, where when I vote, it's my secret, but if I want to recall, I must be identified?
Yeah, they did not hide their identity when they came to submit the petition. So I think at that point, whether they are being used or not, I think they would have crossed the hurdle. And at that point, they just couldn't care whether anybody identifies them or not. All they want is to have their representative out. So at that point, there is really no secrecy. So you come and your signature is there anyway. So for record purposes, we already know, or whoever is interested would know the people that signed the petition. And when we get to the field, we're going with that register of petitioners, and that is what would be used during verification if we had gotten to that level. And so all those people would need to turn up with their PVCs to be verified and authenticated and append their signature again. So it's no longer, at that point, it's not a secret.
But who will show up when, unless you have some sort of guarantee that you'll be safe and protective? Who is going to show up?
They will show up. After all, some people submitted the petition to the commission and it was televised, and they had no qualms about that. So their representatives that signed alongside them naturally would show up if they're real, if they're authentic. So the verification would have helped us ascertain or confirm if these were forged signatures or if truly these people appended their signatures to the petition that was submitted to the commission.
If you look at the laws, Section 69, Section 110 of the Constitution, Section 113, 116 of the Electoral Act, Section 12B of the INEC rules and regulations, do you think it's really possible to recall any lawmaker at any level in this country, you know, given the cumbersome nature of the process itself in terms of the legal provisions? Is it possible to recall anybody? Because some people have said, look, you really cannot recall anybody because the process is not, it's easier to remove a governor, you know, under Section 305 than all those other sections to remove a lawmaker. To remove a lawmaker is difficult, but to remove a governor, you just need, you know, somebody invoking, you know, some part of the Constitution. Do you share that view? Or you think that the law is good enough as it is with regard to recall of lawmakers?
The law as it is difficult. Like I said, we all appreciate the number of registered voters in the first place that brought up the member representing them, and indeed even the losers in that election. It was a little above 100,000, and now we need 237,000. And again, looking at the associated issues, those who probably would have traveled, those who are no longer within that vicinity, and the rest of it. So by the time you take out all of those, it will be very difficult to be able to come up with that number of people. But nothing is impossible. But then the verification exercise would have proven or given us a true picture of the situation if we had gotten there. I agree with you that it's easier to remove a governor because that is by impeachment, or an executive anyway, that is by impeachment, than to remove a legislator. Again, the ball lies in the court because they are the lawmakers. So it's within their purview to amend the law to make it workable or achievable. But as it is difficult. But there's nothing the commission can do aside from adhering strictly to what the law provides and going on with the process whenever such demand is made.